All rise. We will be. Please be seated. Please, by your voices.
Thank you very much, witness. Welcome back. Mr. Farr, please proceed.
Thank you.
Mr. Bromley, okay? Good. Mr. Bromley, I now wish to take you to look at Yamumbi. And you will recall that you identified Yamumbi in what is grid cell L9 in the atlas. That is page 0092-1132. Grid L9 in the atlas. Do you see it?
Yes, it's actually in the grid cell above it, but it's on this page too.
And we say that actually the place depicted on this page, or most of it, is in fact Langas and not Yamumbi. What do you say to that?
I wouldn't know. Again, I wouldn't know.
When the OTP provided you with the coordinates, they gave you that particular coordinate as Yamumbi. Is that right?
Correct.
Did they inform you that Yamumbi is basically a farm area and not a town? Did they explain that to you?
No.
We also say that the area with the red dots on that map showing destruction is in fact in Kisumundogo in Langas and not Yamumbi. What do you say to that?
I wouldn't know.
May I take your honors to tab 4 of the defense binder? The ERN number is KEN D09 0034 003. It's 0003. Could you put that up the screen, please? Could you now see it up the screen and also on tab 4 of the defense bundle? Can you see it?
Yes.
I want you to examine this Google Earth image we have provided very carefully. And if you look at about 3 plots away from the area stamped as Kisumundogo Shopping Center, you would see a plot with a triangular shape. Could you see it? At least 3 plots.
What do you mean by plots? The area within streets?
Also, a direction
Yes.
would be helpful, Your Honours. A direction would be helpful.
I said to the left, 3 plots to the left from the point marked Kisumundogo. Can you see a triangular shape?
Yes, a triangle without a bottom, correct?
Yes. Would you agree with me that that same spot is also visible in the image that you provided, especially to the top left-hand corner of the image you have provided of this document 0092-1132? Can you see it?
Yes, I believe I can.
Would you agree that this Google Earth image depicts the same location as the one contained in the imagery that you analyzed on L9?
Mr. Fowl, I have not located where we are. First of all, I'm handicapped by the printouts of the map atlas sheet L9. Be that as it may, where is the triangle you're talking about? That's to the left of the designation Kisumundogo Shopping Center.
Yes, Mr. President. May I ask the court officer to shrink the image a little? That way, the portions I'm talking about will become obvious. Now it's up the screen, Mr. President. You could see that counting 3 plots to the left. Could you expand it a little bit, please? Include a bit of the farm area. Yes, this is perfect now. If you count 3 plots to the left from
Of the B?
Of the B,
Yes.
you would see a plot with a triangular shape at the top. That is the spot I'm talking about.
Oh, right. I see that.
Yes. It is quite visible in the image provided by the Office of the Prosecutor, contained in KEN 0092-1132. That is L9.
All right. Can we pull up 1132 on the screen?
The ERN number is KenOTP -0092-1132. That is seat L9, Atlas seat L9.
So we can leave 1132 on screen because your own Google Map bundle appears sufficiently clear to work with.
I'm with that, Mr. President. So, could you kindly put 1132 up the screen, please? L9. Okay. And Mr. Bromley, L9 is now up the screen, and taking it from the top left-hand corner, and you walk down the first street, you would come to the point of the triangular shape we talked about contained in the Google Earth image. Is that right?
Yes.
So essentially, L9, or what is contained in L9, is the same thing that is depicted in the Google Earth image we have provided. Is that right?
Yes, generally the same area.
And if you look at the image you provided, that is the L9 you provided, there are red dots to the top right of the document. Is that right?
Correct.
And if you overlay the Google Map image that we provided, the Google Earth image, onto L9, the red dots would fall on a location called Kisumundogo in Langas. Is that right?
The shopping center, correct.
Kisumundogo, Mr. President, is, for the record, is spelled K-I-S-U-M-U, Ndogo, N-D-O-G-O. And we say that Langas is in fact to the left of the Google Earth image that we provided, and also to the left of L9 that you have provided. What do you say to that?
You mean the...
I meant to say Yamumbi is to the left of the Google Earth image that we provided, and what is to the right is all Langas. What do you say to that?
Again, I wouldn't know other than the coordinates I was provided.
And
you're saying that Yamumbi would be around the area you pointed out as the triangle, to the left of that?
yes, Mr. President. And we say that Yamumbi also comprises the area contained in L8, L7, L6, and L5 of the atlas. Do you have any comment on that?
I wouldn't know again.
Mr. Fowl, do you have the coordinates for all these places you are putting that's different from the prosecutor's own coordinates?
Mr. President, we expect that at some stage, when the defense may present evidence, we would have to call someone to present evidence as to the geographical boundaries of Yamumbi, and also perhaps present a map. I have attempted to try to get a Google Earth image of it, but the precise boundaries are not marked as it was in the Kimumu one, and I did not want to present misleading information. I have good knowledge of the area. I can.
You're not to give evidence.
Exactly.
You're a lawyer.
So that is why we are prepared to leave it as is at the moment.
Now, what I was saying is whether you have the coordinates for Yamumbi, Langas, Kisumu, and so on, since you are contesting the expert's own location. Of course, he acted on the basis of the coordinates he was given.
Our contention, Mr. President, is that just a mere coordinate is not enough. The court should have been provided with information as to the geographical boundaries of these areas, and with information as to what destruction falls within this particular area. And that has not been done. And we are showing that, in fact, the areas that have been so provided to represent, to depict some of the places that are talked about, if they are correct, they show very little or no destruction. And where we believe that the information is incorrect, we have tried to provide what we believe is the right information. But there is an extent to which we can go. We do not have just the coordinates, because we believe a coordinate would not be enough. We believe
No, it will not be one coordinate. If you are talking about an area, that area can fall within some coordinates, perhaps 4 or more.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
So at least that can give you a rough idea of what you're saying. And you say you have the coordinates. If you plotted the map around those coordinates, you will have the area.
That is precisely the point. But at the moment, I do not have coordinates as such for some of these locations. For some areas, it's quite easy, it's obvious. Say, for instance, Langas. We can easily tell what is Langas. But I really do not have any precise coordinates that I can give. May I proceed, Mr. President? Mr. Witness, if you go through the areas that I have identified as Yamumbi, you would see some destruction, or what is shown as destruction, on L4 and L3. Correct?
As well as L5?
Yes. Mr. President, this is something we would have to come to at a later stage. We believe that portions that are depicted in L4 and L3 are in fact out of Yamumbi. But if you look at the map, it looks like a continuation of the same field. So for now, we just take it as Yamumbi, and I am prepared to count every destruction that is contained in that area and take it for now to be in Yamumbi, just to be fair to the witness and to the prosecution, even though we believe that some of those areas are in fact out of Yamumbi. And at the right stage, we will bring evidence to that effect.
You can proceed with your questioning. If prosecution has an objection, they will make it, and then we'll make a ruling.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And we say that if you look at L5, you have identified about 10 definitely destroyed structures. Is that right?
Approximately.
If you look at L6, none. Correct?
I beg your pardon, I can see 2 in the bottom left-hand quadrant.
Yes, thanks so much for that correction. 2 in L6.
Correct.
L7, none.
Correct.
And L8, none.
Correct.
So now let's move to Langas. Before we leave this page, L9, we have identified about 16 destroyed structures in the place called Kisumundogo.
Approximately.
Yes. And if you turn to the next page, L10, you would see a continuation of Langas.
Yes. Well,
Yes.
I see L10.
Yes. We say that place is called Langas. And if you look at the Google Earth image we have provided, you could see that the same image depicted on L10 is in fact the image depicted on the middle of the Google Earth image we provided, precisely in the segment written Kisumundogo Shopping Center. Would you agree?
Yes, it appears that way.
Is it the same question you've asked before? Saying that, where you say that the row or the cluster of destroyed structures appearing at 11:32 are in around the Kisumundogo shopping center. Is that the point you're making?
In fact, it's a different point, Mr. President. This time, I'm just trying to show that what is contained in L10.
Whereabouts in L10?
All of L10 is also contained in the Google Earth image we provided, showing the area of Langas.
No, but let's take our reference point now. At least that's so there is no confusion when you're saying it's a different point. Now we see in L10, top west of the image, also a cluster of destroyed structures. Are they the same as we see in L9? An overlap?
Mr. President, except I am mistaken, I have not seen any. Oh yes, the L10 it's showing a bit of L9.
Capturing the destroyed?
Capturing the destroyed.
It's a Brumley help us so that we don't argue about this when you're not here.
That what is contained in the top left-hand corner of L10
Yes, you
is
will.
in fact what is contained in the top right-hand corner of L9. Is that right?
Yes, you will notice a black line forming the square, which is the grid cell. So there is a small amount of overlap between each page, just to avoid losing any of the data between pages. So to the left of the black line on L10 is in fact cell L9, and correspondingly so on the other side of the page.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Fowl, what is that different point you're making?
The different point I'm making is that the rest of what is in the rest of the page of L9, taking it from the second cell, would also be part of Langas, and it's also showed in the middle of the Google Earth image we have provided, correct?
Again, I can't say whether it's Longus or not, but I can say that it's it appears to be the same as what you have in the Google image you've provided.
Thank you. And we say that all that area up to the main road, written Stand Kisa Yala Road or Kisumu Road, is Langas. And beyond the road is in fact racecourse.
I can't comment on that. One clarification, though, your map is actually a Google map, not a Google Earth map.
I wouldn't know the difference, Mr. Bromley. Well, thank you very much for that. 6 in the morning for you.
Is there a difference?
Sometimes there are, yes. Google Earth and Google Maps, as far as I know, use slightly different image libraries, and so sometimes one is updated before the other. Basically, in the past, sometimes I've noticed slightly different images between the two, but for 99% of the planet, they're probably the same.
Now, Mr. Fowl, help us while you're there. Where then would you put the Kisumu Road, that is Tandi Kisa Yala Road? Where would you locate it? On either L10 or L11?
It is quite visible on L11, and it is the road in the middle of the page. Can you see it, Mr. President?
I do see a road there. I wanted to know whether that is where you would put it.
I
Right, we can proceed.
yes. And
Perhaps we can have him react to that, whether he agrees with that. Again, Mr. Bromley, while we have you here, we want to, as much as possible, get us information we can. Yes, once you leave and lawyers start arguing about what you said and the meaning of it, it'd be difficult for you to come back then and clarify anything. So do you agree that the road that's written on the Google Map satellite photo that says Kisumu Road continues on to say Standi Kesa Yala Road, you would put it in the middle of L11? If you can, if it's not clear, you can also let us know.
They do appear to be the same, Your Honor.
And we say that to the right of that road is race course and not Langas. What do you say to that?
Again, I would not know.
And Mr. Witness, if you look at the sheet showing Langas, the only destruction that we have seen are the 16 dots in Kisumundogo, right?
Again, as we discussed with Kamumu, there are additional destruction points in the area of the coordinate that I was given as Langas, but I think we would need to determine the boundaries of what you consider Langas. Am I answering the?
Well, we have provided you with the image of what we consider to be Langas, and we'd be happy if you could show us destruction in places that would fall within the boundary of Langas that is depicted in the Google image we have provided you.
So you're saying from the shopping center to the Kisumu Road is Langas?
Yes.
In the image that you provided?
Yes.
So it looks like we would have one in L10, actually three within L10, two or three of which maybe would be just south of the, or just to the, below the shopping center you've identified.
But those are the ones in Kisumundogo, isn't it?
Depending on where your boundaries are. And then there's one in the middle right of sheet L10, which is a yellow point, so a possibly destroyed.
Yes, I am more concerned about the definitely destroyed.
Okay.
Could you find any other?
No.
Thank you very much. I would now move on to Huruma. And Huruma was identified in the grid point H4, that is in 0092-1067. Grid point or atlas point seat H4. Could you put that up the screen, please? Could you see it?
Yes.
And this is the point you have identified as Huruma. Is that right?
Correct, based on the coordinates I was given.
We say that Huruma extends to the wheat farm, a popular wheat farm just in the outskirts of Eldoret. What do you say to that?
I wouldn't know.
And we say that seats G4 and G3 sow Huruma up to the wheat farm. Could you take a look at G4 and G3, please? Could you kindly put G4 up the screen? And G4 is 0092-1052. Can you say it? And the what looks like a triangular space is in fact the wheat farm no, that place would be rye ply, and below it on the left hand side, middle left hand side of the page, is the wheat farm, and that is where Huruma ends. What do you say?
Again, I wouldn't know.
Did the OTP provide you with information as to the geographical boundaries of Huruma?
No, they provided a approximate coordinate point.
May I take you to grid point G3, which is 1051? Could you kindly put that off the screen, please? Yes, could you expand it a little bit, please? And we say that that empty space on the middle right-hand side of the page is the wheat farm, which separates Huruma from roadblock. What do you say to that?
I wouldn't know.
May I now ask you to take a look at this document contained in tab 3 of the defense bundle? Could you kindly put up the screen document KEN D09 0034 0002. Kindly put it off the screen, please. And Mr. Bromley, you would notice that on the top center of the page, there is this place marked wheat farm. Can you see it? To the left of the road, can you see it?
Yes.
If you take a look at G3, you would see that the wheat farm is in fact the empty space or the empty field depicted in the lower half of G3. Is that right?
Yes, it appears so.
And if you follow the Eldoret Juakali Road that is showed on the Google image, you would come to another field which has this writing, Huruma Sub-District Hospital. Can you say it?
Yes.
And you would agree just a minute. You would agree with me that that is depicted in H4 of the Atlas sheets you provided. H4. That would be 0092-1067. H4.
Yes, it appears so.
Why is that?
H4 on...
I know. I'm asking what, how do they relate so as to say we are seeing the same thing?
If you, from Wheat Farm, if you take the Eldoret Juakali Road, going down into Eldoret, that is going south, you would see a field, and in the center of that, there is this point marked Huruma Sub-District Hospital. Okay. That is the same location that is depicted on the right-hand side of H4.
So it's in the H5 cell, just right on the edge of the page, correct?
Yes. Mr. President,
I see the road that appears on H5 quite clearly, that moves from, I would say, northwest to sort of east on that map,
yes.
on that plane.
It is a continuation of what is contained in the last shell in H4. And we say, Mr. President, that that place is the field that is depicted in the Google Earth map, the point that shows Huruma Sub-District Hospital.
Mr. Bromley, you say you agree with that proposition?
Yes, and just as a reminder, the Atlas pages north is rotated slightly to the left, so there is some difference between the Google maps you're being shown where north is directly up, and on my Atlas where north is pointed slightly to the left. You can see the north arrow at the top left of the page. So the The road that you see on H5 looks to be the Eldoret Road. The building that you see to the left in the middle of the field on H5 is also visible to the right side of the page on H4.
All right. Proceed, Mr. Farr.
So you agree that the Google Earth image covers the area that you have in H3, H4. Is that right?
Yes.
And it also covers the area G4, H3, and yes, G4 and H3 and H4, right?
Yes.
And looking at the atlas sheets you have provided, let's start from H4. There is no destruction that is visible there, correct?
Correct.
And H3, no destruction, correct?
There may be 3 on H3.
Maybe we have to struggle to find them. Definitely destruction.
Printout. Can we look at H3 on the screen?
Yes, could kindly put 0092-1066 up the screen, please? Kindly expand it, please.
That's H4. We need H3. Can you scroll down?
You have to struggle to find any. Huh?
Yeah, with the PDF, it's always harder. It's possible there's 3 or 4, 5. In the adjoining cell, there's at least 3.
Which adjoining cell is that?
To the left.
Yes, but that would not be Huruma.
Right.
That is beyond the river, and that place would not be Huruma. That place would be Cape Kenya. All right, let's go to G3. Where are you able to find any, rather G4, are you able to find any in G4?
No.
So this is the extent of the destruction in Huruma, correct?
It's the destruction in those grid cells.
Mr. Bromley, taking the evidence at its highest, we were able to see about 56 structures destroyed in Kimumu. Do you recall that?
Yes.
About 48 in Yamumbe. Do you recall that?
Yes.
About 16 in Kisumundogo in Langas. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And almost 0 in Huruma, correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I will not trouble you any further. I would leave it at that and have a very nice journey back. And hopefully we would see you again in another case. In the meantime, let me do the housekeeping and ask that certain items that we have used in the cross-examination be admitted in evidence. And for that, I would ask that the map that we used to show Better Farm and Kimumu, KEND09-0034-0001, and the map we've used for Kiamba, KEND09-0034.
One at a time.
All right.
Did you use both? Or let's process it one ERN number at a time.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President.
Which one?
I would start with the one for Kiamba.
Where is the tab?
It's tab 11, and it's KEN D09-0034-0009.
Prosecution
Objection, Your Honor.
admitted as the next of the Ruto defense exhibit. So we don't call upon you one at a time. Would you prepared that each of them be admitted? So,
Your Honors, I don't think I will have any objections, but if we could just identify the tab numbers so I could have a
we'll
look.
still go one at a time.
Yes, I don't believe I will have any objection to these documents.
All right. So we've admitted the document 0009.
Le document KE
The court officer, document KEN D09-0034-0009, a public document, will be assigned the following number: EVD T D09-00193.
And may I ask that the map showing Kimumu and Better Farm be admitted into evidence, and the reference number is KEN-D09-0034-0001.
Where is it?
Tab 2, Mr. President.
It will be admitted as the next of the Ruto defense exhibits.
Your Honor, for the record, I have no objection, but I might wish to show the witness a slightly larger version of this map, because I think there's important information that's been left off the map on which he's been asked to...
In re-examination?
In re-examination, yes.
Fair
But I
enough.
just want to flag that at this stage.
So in the meantime, the document is admitted.
The court officer, document KEN D09-0034-0001, a public document, shall be assigned the following number: EVD T D09-00194.
And the next document would be the Google Earth map of Kisumundogo, contained in tab 4 with ERN number KEN D09 0034-0003.
Admitted.
Le document K...
The court officer, document KEN D0900340003, will be given the following number: EVD T D09 00195. This is a public document.
And the next would be the Google Earth image for Huruma sublocation, and it's tab 3, it's KEN D09 0034 0002.
No objection.
Do you accept that it is Huruma sublocation, or you're not objecting merely to the admission of the document?
I have no objection to the admission of the document. I don't make any admission about the correctness of the area that he's put.
A document is admitted.
The court officer, document KEN D09 0034 0002, a public document, shall be assigned the following number: EVD T D09 00196.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Fowl. Mr. Kiginkatwa. You will then take us to lunch time,
Yes, Mr. President.
and I understand you don't expect to be more than that.
I don't recall you asking me, Mr. President, but I shouldn't be more than on the higher side 1 hour, Mr. President.
Proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bromley.
Good afternoon.
Now, my questions will be entirely on the issue of the estimates you did in terms of distance and time travel, and that is the understanding we had with the other team. Now, the letter of instructions given to you, or the letter requesting for your expertise, is reference, it is at tab 5, and it is Ken OTP 00920928. Now, Mr. Bromley, I want to ask you the first, initially 3 general questions before we go into the question of the use of the helicopter and travel by road. The first one is, could you kindly confirm that the coordinates you used were the ones given to you by the prosecution?
Yes, all the coordinates I used were provided by OTP.
And did you counter-check whether those coordinates, as counter-checked to the names of the places referred to by the prosecutions, were accurate?
If I recall, in some cases I was able to see them on Google Maps. In some cases I had no other information on where they might be. I certainly checked that the coordinates were in the right general area, just as a matter of normal confirmation. Sometimes they get reversed, basically. So, but yeah, I had no ability to check where these locations were other than something like Google Maps.
Mr. Bromley, are you in a position to tell this court that each of those coordinates is an accurate reference to the locations referred to by the prosecution?
Not specific, not at this time. No, I would have to go back and see which ones were visible on Google Maps. But I essentially took them at face value, other than a basic check of their possible accuracy.
Now, in terms of your report on the use of helicopters, Mr. Bromley, you have stated at page Ken OTP 0092-0928 that there are some limitations to your ability. Could I read the reference again? Sorry. Ken-OTP-0092-0919. In that report, Mr. Bromley, you have said that your estimates as to time taken to travel between the locations given to you were subject to a couple of caveats, isn't it?
Yes.
And Mr. Bromley, the ones you've identified at the same page 0919 are the time it would take to take off, time it would take to land, and any in-flight maneuvers, isn't it, Mr. Bromley?
The calculations did not take those three variables into account. It just essentially assumed a takeoff, straight flight, landing without any maneuvering, essentially.
In fact, Mr. Bromley, it assumes that it takes off at the estimates of the speeds you've given at the bottom of your in your conclusions at page 0920, being at a fast speed 248 kilometers per hour and at a slow speed 200 kilometers per hour, isn't it?
It essentially starts the flight after takeoff from a position where it would then accelerate to those speeds.
Now, Mr. Bromley, you would also confirm that apart from what you acknowledge as likely to be issues that will affect the time taken, you would also accept that weight carried in the helicopter would also affect the time taken to travel between the points, isn't it?
I think that's a little beyond what I can speculate. I would assume the top speed of the helicopters mentioned in their manufacturer's specifications would take into, I mean, they have a certain carrying capacity which they're not going to exceed or else they can't fly.
Okay. What of altitude, Mr. Bromley?
No, there was no calculation involving altitude. Again, it was just from a hovering position flying to the destination.
I understand, Mr. Bromley. What I'm saying is, depending on the situation of the altitude or the location where the aircraft is flying, speed and time taken would be affected by altitude, isn't it?
Possibly. I guess I don't know enough about helicopter flight to answer that.
Bromley, temperature would also affect the time taken to travel, isn't it?
Again, I couldn't speculate on that. It was the manufacturer's specifications plugged into the distance equals time.
Now, Bromley, you identified a couple of specific helicopters that you said you referenced from the Kenya media, and that is Eurocopter AS350, 365, EC145, MDUs 500, and Robinson R44, isn't it?
Correct.
Could you confirm, Mr. Bromley, that these models that you have used to make your estimates were not given to you by the prosecution?
Correct.
Mr. Bromley, all the items we've made reference to, the takeoff time, the flight time, the landing, the flight maneuvers, and whether or not weight and altitude would affect the time taken by a flight to travel from one point to another. All of them would increase the time it would take to fly from one point to the next, isn't it?
What did you say he made reference to as affecting the flight time?
Mr. President, he acknowledged that takeoff, landing, and flight maneuvers were not taken into account in calculating the time it would take to fly from one point to another.
All right. Okay, your question is, again?
Then additionally, I have put propositions to him in respect to weight, altitude, and temperature, and he acknowledges that altitude could possibly be, he didn't acknowledge on weight and temperature. And my question is this, that all those would go into, in every likelihood, increasing the time it would take to travel from one point to the next, isn't it, Mr. Bromley?
That seems logical. That was essentially why I provided the fast air travel time and the slow air travel time to give some variability in the results to account for these factors and the helicopter speed.
Now, Mr. Bromley, in your report, there is a particular reference to traveling from the first location being Kipkaren Salient Trading Center, and then location 2, that is at page 0920. Are you there, Mr. Bromley?
Yes.
And can you see the item I'm referring to, Kipkaren Salient Trading Center to Diani Road? Can you see that?
Yes.
Now, on that item, Mr. Bromley, you've said that it would take, at a slow speed, 63 minutes to travel from Kipkaren Salient Trading Center to Kass FM Studio, Diani Road, off Ole Odume Road, Nairobi. And it would take 78 minutes when you're going faster. That's what you said, Mr. Bromley, isn't it?
It is the other way around, isn't it?
It's the other way around, yes.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. That if you are going fast, you'd use 63 minutes, and if you are going slow, you'd use 78 minutes, isn't it?
Correct. That's what it indicated.
Now, in terms of this location, Kass FM Diani Road off Ole Odume Road, the presumption is that, in fact, there is a landing pad for an helicopter, isn't it?
I mean, possibly, or an area to land.
Thank you, Mr. Bromley. Could you confirm if you actually checked whether that is a possibility, that there is a landing ground, whether in terms of a landing field or a landing pad?
No, I did not check that.
You've also said in the next item that it would take 0 minutes to travel from Kipkaren Salient to Kass FM office, Paringetuny Plaza. You can see that?
Yes, since they're 2 kilometers apart at that speed, it's essentially less than 1 minute.
In practical sense, Mr. Bromley, is that possible, that you would not use any time to travel between the 2 points?
Well, the unit of time here is minutes, so 0 indicates less than 1 minute, but I'm sure you could fly at 200 kilometers in less than 1 minute over 2.5 kilometers is how I would interpret that.
Now, Mr. Bromley, this preposition in the first item I picked, Kass FM Studio in Diani Road, off Ole Odume Road, was it your idea that Kass FM Studio, which is marked there, is on that Diani Road, or was it prosecution's proposition?
That's a verbatim repeat of the information I was given by prosecution.
Now, Mr. Bromley, I would like, keeping your finger on that item, I would like you to look at the letter of instructions you are given, KenOTP 0092-0928, page 0928. Are you there?
Yes.
Now, I want to read with you the last paragraph of what you are requested by the prosecution. The last sentence, it starts with the word "after having identified." Can you see that?
Yes.
It says this is what you asked. After having identified the requested distances.
1 second, Mr. KenyaMOJA. You said, where is this?
That's at tab 5, Your Honors. KenOTP 0092-0928.
All right. After having identified the requested distances, you mean?
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Bromley, this is what you asked. After having identified the requested distances, you are requested to estimate the average time required for a person transported by a helicopter or an ordinary car to move from location 2 to location 1 on the given date. You can see that, Mr. Bromley.
Correct.
Mr. Bromley, it is on the item I just shown you, Current Salient and KASFM Diani Road. In the letter of instructions, in the next page, you were given specific time when it is, you were to make an estimate of both distance and time being 6th December 2007. You can see that at the next page, page 929, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Bromley, my instructions is that KASFM was not at this address, Diani Road off Oleodume Road, as at 6th December 2007. What would you have to say in response to that?
That's not something I would know.
Now, using the same item, Mr. Bromley, you were asked how long it would take to travel on that specific date from one point to the next. Is your estimation in any way informed by the 6th of December 2007 when you estimate the times that it would take, whether you're going fast or slow?
No, the specific date did not figure into the 200 miles per hour or 200 kilometers per hour is the same on one day or the next.
And could you confirm that, in fact, in all the estimates you've done, the dates given to you were not a factor you took into account in making the estimates?
That's correct.
Mr. Bromley, you said you used general media material to make an estimate of what kind of helicopter models are in use in Kenya. That's what you said, isn't it?
Yeah, that was essentially a brief internet search on what kind of helicopters I might find in Kenya at that time. I mean, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. But basically, you'll confirm that in your report you have not incorporated anything to show that data that you did to show that these kind of helicopters are actually in use in Kenya.
They were referenced in some source relating to Kenya, but I can't. I remember one was a safari company, one was an executive limousine service, something like that.
Now, Mr. Bromley, I would like us to move on to the issue of the use of road transport. And that's also at page 0092-0919 of your report. Could you confirm that you have raised the following caveats at the last paragraph, at the first sentence, the last sentence at page 0919, that you have said that making an estimate of how long it will take to go by road is more complex than obtains in respect to an helicopter?
Before you embark on that line of question, Mr. Katwa, I'm thinking about the witness's answer about the date indicated in the prosecutor's instructions. Would you know why a date would be indicated in your instruction, saying distance from point A to point B on a given date?
One moment. Yeah, there were dates for the same locations provided, when I was searching for optical satellite imagery to see what had possibly been visible at those locations. So, I mean, it seems to be the same dates that were mentioned in both tables. So the dates were very relevant when I was looking for imagery, but to me they did not seem relevant for the travel time calculation. Unless we want to get into the road traffic conditions in Kenya on those particular dates, which, again, I had no information on about whether there was possibly a traffic jam in a certain area on that particular date.
No, this is about air travel now.
Yeah, right. So I can only speculate that the dates were provided and to possibly inform the road travel part of the assessment.
In terms of air travel, so we get this off our chests, mine at least. It may well be that you've responded to it in a way to Mr. King Katwa's questions, but if there was, say, heavy rainfall on one day, would it make a difference in how fast the helicopter travels?
I would think so. That's speculation, and certainly if the weather was bad enough, a helicopter would not have been able to fly. But I did not check weather conditions for those particular dates.
Or perhaps wind as well?
Correct. Yeah, same response. I'm sure it would theoretically have an influence, but I did not check wind conditions.
Thank you. Please proceed.
And in specific terms, Mr. Bromley, wind, whether it's wind or whether it is weather factors, would inform the likely time it would take to move from one point to another, isn't it?
Yes, and again, that was why I provided a slow and a fast travel time. That was all I could do to address that particular variable.
Now, the first question I wanted to ask you about the road transport is that you said it is a more complex issue to address, isn't it?
Yes, very much so.
And some of the caveats you identified was the question of reasonable and best route along the road network, isn't it?
Yes, there would be multiple routes to get from point A to point B.
The second one that you identified was traffic at page 920, isn't it?
Correct.
The next one is weather conditions.
Correct.
And then the next one is type of car.
Correct.
Now, Mr. Bromley, at page 0919, in the first sentence of your report, in the introduction, you've said, in February 2013, the United Nations Institute of Training and Research Operational Satellite Applications Program conducted an analysis of possible travel times between origins and destinations. You can see that?
Yes.
Mr. Promley, having made a report in February 2013, the roads that you have referenced in terms of likely time to be taken between point 1 to point 2 in your report, you didn't know whether or not those roads were in existence in 2007, would you?
The data that I used was from the Google Mapmaker source, and we obtained that in August of 2011. And there was no way to essentially take it back to 2008 or 7. Sorry.
So the routes that at page 0919 you've used the word reasonable and best route along the road network?
Yes.
And at page 922 you've used another word to describe the same thing. If you looked at the last line of your report, you said, for a fast and slow car to travel along the theoretical best route between locations was provided. You can see that?
Yes.
Are we to assume that theoretical best route is the same thing as at page 922, is the same thing as you have referred to as reasonable and best route at page 919?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Bromley, in the same way that you said in the middle of your report on the methods, you said, I'll just read, you will recognize what I am reading. To determine possible travel time for helicopter between each point, helicopter speed was estimated based on review of 5 common helicopter types in operation by charter companies in Kenya, as referenced in Kenya media. You recall having made that reference, Mr. Bromley?
Yes.
Now, my point of interest is, did you do any media search and reference as to the road situation in Kenya in the year 2007, particularly the roads that you used to estimate the time you would need to travel between points?
No. Just to be clear, I've taken the road from Nairobi to the airport once or twice. I think that was in 2010. There was a traffic jam.
Okay. Now, if I were to put to you, Mr. Bromley, for instance, that what you've referred to at page 921 being the time it would take from item number 3, if you can see item number 3, Mr. Bromley. Item number 3 is travel from Sugoi to Nairobi. You can see that?
Yes.
If I were to indicate to you that it would take 7 hours to go from Sugoi to Nairobi because of the bad road condition in the year 2007, what would you say?
I can't speculate on that.
And in reference specifically to that item number 3, Mr. Bromley, you would also confirm that you did not counter-check it against the date that the prosecution had proposed is the reference date, isn't it?
Correct.
And so that we are done with this issue of theoretical best route and reasonable and best route, could you confirm that what you meant was the most direct route?
This is where we get into the particulars of the software that I used. It is essentially choosing the most direct route. If you expand the analysis and start calculating every possible route, then it goes on forever.
Mr. Bromley, then you would confirm that the time estimates that you've used or you've suggested are probably the minimum time because it doesn't take into account, for instance, traffic, road condition, and all the other items we have acknowledged.
Correct.
Mr. Bromley, your report in terms of the motor vehicle does not suggest in any way what, or rather, let me put it this way. The time you'd spend to move from one point to another would depend also on the engine capacity of the car you're using, isn't it?
Yes, again, those sorts of issues, the only way I could account for that was a theoretical fast car versus slow car.
And the same obtains for an helicopter, that it would depend also on its capacity, isn't it?
Correct. So the sample helicopters that I chose were a range of, very modern fast ones to older, smaller ones.
Mr. Bromley, I was going to ask you, I know you've mentioned that you were in Kenya and saw the road, at least one road, in the year 2010. Absent having done any investigations using media reports for the period 2007, additionally, you did not see the road condition in the period 2007, isn't it, Mr. Bromley?
Correct.
And so, Mr. Bromley, you will admit that your time estimates, I know I've asked you this question, but I want to ask you the last time as I finish my cross-examination, that the time estimates you've given, even in terms of the fastest speed, are the minimum time it would take to move from one point to another, isn't it?
Correct.
Mr. President, that should be all. Thank you very much, Mr. Bromley.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bromley. And then that brings us to our lunch time. Mr. Steinberg, you said you have some questions.
I will have some questions. I don't imagine I'll be more than 15 or 20 minutes at the outside.
Mr. President, I just realized there's a document which...
you want to put in?
Yes, yes. It's a document that was already disclosed. Ken-0092-1516 in respect to destruction in Huruma Estate and Kibera, Nairobi. Mr. President, this is an item we had agreed with my colleague for Ruto team would handle, but seemingly, as an oversight, he did not put in the document.
Where is it? Is it on that in the tab?
Yes.
What time is that?
Should be tab, I think, 11. 10. Tab 10, Mr. President.
Mrs. Steinberg? Your Honor, this is a document that was not shown to the witness. He's not commented on it, and I don't see on what basis it's being tendered into evidence.
Yes, what is... I don't remember.
Mr. President, if I could have the witness identified, please. I know I had closed my cross-examination, but it shouldn't take me more than 5 minutes. I very kindly request for your indulgence. Let me say 3 minutes.
Monsieur KenyaMOJA.
Mr. KenyaMOJA, we've noted that the document's confidential. Please, could you confirm that?
It's not confidential.
We noticed that it is an OTP document, is it?
Yes, Mr. President.
All right, proceed.
Mr. Bromley, I would like you to look at tab 10 and particularly look at the document Ken-OTP-0092-1516.
Yes, I see it.
Could you confirm this is the document you said your employer made before you were involved in this, before you were engaged to do the report that you did? You recall that?
This appears to be a different document produced at the time. It was produced 23 January, I think, 2008, which was quite some time before I came to UNISAT.
Yes, and you said it came to conclusions, similar conclusions to what you had already, to the conclusions you arrived at, isn't it?
Well, again, I don't believe I've commented on this or seen it, honestly. I mean, I think I've seen it, but I haven't reviewed it closely.
To the extent to which you have reviewed it, Mr. Bromley, could you confirm that on its face you can see that there is acknowledgement of destruction in Uruma Estate and Kibera Estates in Nairobi?
That's the title of the map, correct?
Would it come from the same series or records as we see at tabs 8 and 9? The OTP bundle.
Yes, so there is an activation code, as we call it, which is referred to as a glide number in the top right, and that appears to be the same activation code, although the map on the screen was essentially produced, 19 days later. 19 and 20 days later than the other maps we discussed.
Prosecutor, do you revise your position?
Your Honor, I've no real objection to being put in, but I don't see the relevance. We're talking about destruction in Nairobi, which is, we've heard a lot about destruction falling on this side or on that side of a particular boundary within a kilometre or two. This is some 400 kilometres away. But other than relevance, nothing.
We will admit it.
Thank you very much, Your Honors. Thank you very much for the indulgence.
We will, after the court officer records the document, we'll take our break now.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
The court officer, thank you, Your Honor. Document KEN-OTP 0092 1516. A public document will be assigned the following number: EVD T D11 00043.
Thank you very much. Witness, we'll take our lunch break now, and you too, your well-deserved lunch, and then we'll meet again at 2:30. Court will rise.
All rise. We will be.